Welcome, thank you for joining. I'm going to be talking through the Domaine Tissier Rosé 2018 vintage, and I thought I'd just explain a little bit about the producer to get an understanding of the wine. So the Tissier family set up the domaine in 1945, and Florent is now the third generation winemaker in the family here. He trained in Beaune and also Mâcon, so Burgundy training, and then also worked in Saint-Emilion for a spell, so kind of a broad spectrum of French winemaking, but then he went back to his roots in the Loire Valley. So the Loire is kind of mid-western France, with quite a cool climate, very famous in Sancerre, very famous for its white wines. This is obviously a rosé. They have about 10 hectares of vines, and it's about 80% Sauvignon Blanc for the white wine, and then 20% Pinot Noir, which is fantastic in a cool climate like the Loire. And they mainly make red wine, but then the rosé is kind of a byproduct of this, and a lovely byproduct to have. So without further ado, let's give it a taste, shall we, Nev?
Absolutely.
So it's this amazing, vibrant pink colour, kind of shocking pink, that is really pretty, very, very pretty. And on the nose, actually, Neville and I, we did a bit of a run through yesterday and opened the wine. And it's really fascinating to see how it's transitioned from yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yesterday was really bright red fruit, red berries, strawberry, kind of raspberry, strawberries and cream kind of. And now it's kind of developed into a more chalky, minerally kind of, as Nev said, like Sancerre, very Sancerre now. Lovely, smooth in the mouth. That sweet red berry, but not overpowering. It's very delicate and well poised. At $18.95, it's not the cheapest rosé on the market, but I think it's something special. Very, very small production, and it's quite a serious rosé. You know, it's got lovely structure, quite a long finish. So although it'd be a fantastic as an aperitif, you know, a charcuterie board or something like that, I think it's also got the structure to stand up to food. And I think even like it's so smooth, and the sweetness would kind of counterbalance Asian food quite well. What do you think?
Yeah, so I completely agree. Actually, I thought the first thing that struck me, I think when I first tasted this, was that this is much more kind of grown up, much more sort of straightforward rosé. Actually, I think it's got a lot more going on. I think it would stand up. I think it would stand up to lots and lots of summer dishes. Actually, you know, one of the sort of pairings that I think has been recommended actually from a couple of people that we deal with is that it'd be absolutely fabulous with a goat's cheese salad. You know, like goat's cheese tends to be kind of rich, creamy, all the rest of it, and frankly quite goaty. And I think to have the sort of acidity to go with it that's going to sort of cut through that, whilst also having sort of points of interest with the minerality and the slightly richer style that you have here. I think, definitely a much more kind of serious food wine than I think you would find from more straightforward rosés in the marketplace, for sure.
It's gastronomic, and I mean, it's $18.95 compared to people spending £16.50 on Whispering Angel. You know, £2 up, and you've got yourself a really complex and delicious, very pretty wine. So I'm a huge fan of this. Actually, I
also think it's a bit of a point of interest as well. I think, you know, people sort of, you know, tend to either bring a white or a red along to sort of, you're going over to somebody's for dinner, but I genuinely think bringing this over and, you know, for summer food and all the rest of it to have, I think it's firstly a bit of a talking point and genuinely a bit different, and I think that'd be a really, really well received. So yeah.
Ooh. I think, shall I touch on briefly the Malbec that's in the case, and then you can
that'd be great.
About the Domaine Labruyere. So the fourth wine in the case is the Achaval-Ferrer Malbec. This was an estate set up in 1998 by a group of Italian and Argentinian friends who had a huge passion for wine and went to see this site in Mendoza, so the foothills of the Andes, and just was so impressed by what they found there. I mean, the vines are over 100 years old, so produce a real rich, intense, concentrated wine. And they really were the forerunners of premium Argentinian wine. £20.95. It's outstanding for the value for what you get. And I've had a couple of friends who've been a bit like, oh, £20 on a Malbec, you know, it's a bit too much. But as soon as they open the bottle, they're just blown away. So it's not exactly a necessity, but I think it's kind of the best in class that we have to offer. So Nav, do you want to take us through the Moulin-a-Vent?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So Domaine Labruyere, absolutely sort of historic estate in Beaujolais, centered around the village of Moulin-a-Vent. You know, been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, real presence in the region. You know, very, very important family. I mean, the main man today, Edouard Labruyere, you know, very kind of colourful kind of career, very interesting guy. You know, was a sort of diplomat in South Africa and then came back to the sort of family estate to take that over. And you know, if this is your kind of first introduction to Beaujolais, I think it's a real treat. Actually, it is, you know, huge, you know, great quality all around. You know, Moulin-a-Vent is considered sort of one of the sort of greatest villages or crus in Beaujolais. And, you know, this is the Coeur de Terroir. So, you know, Coeur being heart, you know, this is the heart of the terroir of Moulin-a-Vent. And I think, you know, Domaine Labruyere selected this because I think it captures the sort of broader terroir expressions of the region sort of really, really well. And yeah, it's a super interesting wine. You know, it's taken from 5 plots across the village. And you know, all sort of specifically chosen to kind of capture different aspects of the terroir of Moulin-a-Vent. I think it does that really, really well. You know, I think in addition, I think what you find is that, you know, anybody that's sort of got the horrors about you know, Beaujolais Nouveau of the past, I think we can most certainly leave that in the past, because I think that's where it belongs, because it was yeah, something rather awful. But you know, this I think will appeal to, you know, a real broad range of people. Actually, you know, I think it's got the richness to kind of stand up to, you know, Bourgogne Rouge and sort of, you know, traditional red Burgundy from the Côte d'Or. I think for established Beaujolais drinkers, I think it's got that real sort of essence of Gamay that you'll really, really like as well. So I think let's give it a taste.
Taste, yeah. Thanks, Ned.
Yeah, so on the nose right away, it's got that sort of intense, you know, fruited sort of character. Really, really interesting. Yeah, real big perfume of kind of rose petals.
In terms of food, I think slightly chilled, this would be brilliant with, you know, like a summer barbecue.
Yeah, I think.
Meat. What would you pair with this wine?
Yeah, I mean, I think like all, because, you know, Beaujolais after all is kind of the most southerly sort of outpost of Burgundy, really. You know, I think really it's going to be absolutely ideal with kind of duck, pheasant, any sort of game thing going on when we get to the sort of autumn. I think that'd be absolutely fab. I think equally, I think, you know, I think with just a sort of simple kind of roast chicken, I think it'd be absolutely great too. I think what I love about it is that kind of minerality and sort of freshness that comes with it, which I think really, really carries it.
Yeah, I'm sure if you serve this at your dinner table, your friends would be quite impressed.
I think so. Well, it's again, like the rosé, it's a bit different. You know, it is a bit different. It's not something that I think most people sort of pull off the shelf. You know, I think people stick to, you know, Burgundy or Claret and things as their sort of red wine of choice. But I think this would be a real something genuinely a bit of a talking point as well. So yeah.
If you've got these bottles open over the weekend, I'd recommend you drink the rosé first, if both bottles are open, and because rosé is a little bit more volatile than the red wine. But if you pop a cork in both of them, keep them in the fridge, the red will last definitely until your Sunday lunch. Don't worry about that. And I think we just had a question popping up about how the wines will age.
Yeah.
So rosé in general doesn't have such a long shelf life as, say a premium white wine or a red wine. So 2018, it's drinking fantastically now. It's got that freshness that you really want to harness. So I drink that sooner rather than later. And then if you want to talk about the Moulin-a-Vent, maybe?
Yeah, no, I think this is again. I think what's so lovely is this is 2016. This is going to be drinking beautifully now. This is it. It's so tasty, got real freshness. But Beaujolais being a kind of thinner skinned, Gamay being a sort of thinner skinned grape. It's gonna. You're not getting sort of masses of tannins that need to sort of soften down and mellow. So I think this is going to be really, really lovely now. But will you be rewarded with a little bit more interesting stuff coming on in sort of 3, 4, 5 years? I think absolutely. Yeah, I think it's not something to forget about forever. It's not claret by any stretch. But it's but in terms of will you be rewarded for sort of waiting for a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. But by all means, the reason we pop it in these cases is it's ready to go. Absolutely ready to go.
I'm a self-confessed, I love Provençal rosé. I'm always keen to try rosé from elsewhere, and I'm really impressed by this. The structure, it's quite a grown-up wine. I'm impressed with this. I do love the Achaval-Ferrer. I love all of them, so it's a bit hard to say. But I think, especially at this hot climate we're in, I think rosé is the winner for me.
I'm sort of split between the Olivier Leflaive Chablis and the Moulin-a-Vent if I want the Coeur de Terroirs by Labruyere. I adore Chablis. Chablis. I love my fish, and I just think it's just so fabulous with it. And the Olivier Leflaive Chablis in particular, to have that kind of little bit of richness as well is so nice, absolutely brilliant. But this, as I said, it's slightly chilled with barbecue food. If you're doing some chickens on the barbecue or, just simple barbecue fare, I think this is absolutely fab. And again, once it sort of chills, it gets that sort of slightly kind of crunchy thing going on, which I love.
Yeah.
This is a very serious wine region with, immense quality to be found at really phenomenal value. So whilst I think Beaujolais Nouveau did do a lot of damage, no question, and I think there was a generation of people that was sort of like really kind of affected by that, in a sense that they just wouldn't touch it. But I think that when you get people to sort of take a bit of a risk and try something a little bit different, this would I'd argue anybody to not be converted by that. I really would. So so popular, yes. Have a loyal following, yes. But I think there's a more conversion to be done.
Need Beaujolais revolution.
Absolutely.